Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new vlog. Today, I'm actually going to be doing a personal and a heartfelt blog because when Anne-Marie Smith, her death and her circumstances around her death have deeply, deeply affected me, and I know I'm not the only person that's deeply affected, but it has brought, I guess, to light that my greatest fear could easily become a reality for my daughter when I'm gone. As you all know, my name is Sue Diamond. I have a daughter who is 28 years old who has Down syndrome, whose name is Chloe, and I have another daughter who lives in another country, and they are my only two children. So my daughter Chloe, when I'm gone, doesn't have any immediate family other than her sister close by to look after her. Now, from the day Chloe was born, I always maintained that I was going to teach my daughter how to be independent so she could live on her own and not be reliant on paid care all of her life. And to be quite honest, I've been quite successful with that. My Chloe is an exceedingly productive, independent young woman, but she does have Down syndrome, so she is always going to need support. She is always going to need some guidance and assistance with her living and to be able to have a good quality of life. I look at Anne-Marie's house and I look at the photos of Anne-Marie and I think to myself, your parents did everything they could to ensure you a good life after they died. And it didn't matter what they did, this still happened. And there are many people out there who say, well, where are the family? Why wasn't she close to people who could keep an eye out for her? And that's not always practical. I mean, apart from my eldest daughter who lives in another country, and let me assure you, they're very close, but she still lives in another country. Our other family on either side, Chloe's dad's side and my side, they have a very, very inactive role in Chloe's life. They love it a bit. Don't get me wrong, this is not about Chloe not being loved and Chloe not being seen as a valuable human being, because she's definitely seen as both that. But they don't take an active role. I mean, Chloe's got cousins who live in the same city as her that have never, ever, ever taken her out to dinner or taken her to a movie. They see her at family events where I take her or where I drop her off. And they talk to Chloe when Chloe calls them because Chloe's quite social. But they've never thought that maybe, we should keep an eye out for Cuz because she's a bit vulnerable. That's never entered their heads. And Chloe's dad committed suicide 10 years ago, so she's had a really rough trot. And I remember at the funeral and after the funeral, many people, many family members and many other people saying, Sue, we promise we'll help, we will help you out. We'll take Chloe on weekends. We'll have her come and visit. We'll do this, we'll do that. Well, promises, promises, promises. The fact is, when you love a person who has needs, it's not a sprint. It's actually a marathon. And yeah, some of those people did have Chloe stay over occasionally. But then it got all too hard and it dried up. It dried up within about 1 or 2 years and it was back to me, just me. In saying that, I have an amazing neighbourhood of which I've created. And so therefore she does have neighbours who invite her over for dinner and do take her out. And I've got one dear friend in Queensland who, whenever she comes down, she takes Chloe out. She's Chloe's friend and she's my friend. It's not a package deal. She likes Chloe as much as she likes, maybe more actually. But she'll contact Chloe as well that I don't know about. But there are we have many, many friends. And we have many, many people who get on really well with Chloe. But the only people other than her neighbours and my friend who have ever, ever, no, not ever, let me say in the last 5 years, taken Missy out for a coffee, for brunch, for a movie, are paid people. We have to pay people to be active friends. That does not make sense, and that scares me. Who's looking out for Chloe when I'm gone? I don't know. Because just like Anne-Marie, by the look of it, it will only be paid people. And sadly, with Anne-Marie's case, it may have hit the headlines because of Anne-Marie dying, but her case is not unusual. We are speaking many times, we talk to people who are being treated appallingly in their own homes by paid people from big organisations. We are in contact with people in COVID who are in homes, group homes, where they're just being treated like blobs. There's no interaction, there's no helping with cooking, there's no online stuff, there's no activities coming together. So they have just been sitting in their bedroom. And that's okay, apparently, that's okay. And one thing we do know with a lot of these supported residential units is the parents have had so much trouble when they're not happy with the way they're working or the way things that are happening in their children's where they're living. They just get banned. They're not allowed to visit their children anymore. They're not allowed in the house. But that's a different story. This is about what happened to Anne-Marie happened to Anne-Marie because the people who did care for her in her life didn't actively care for her. Because it's just how life is. We get on with life and we get insulated and we don't think about people outside. The neighbours have said, oh no, we haven't seen Anne-Marie for a year, so that's not an excuse. Why didn't you knock on the damn door? Why were you not actively good neighbours? You knew she was a vulnerable person. Why weren't you keeping an eye out for her? Why weren't you doing her regular groceries or taking the mail in? It doesn't have to be hard, guys. To be a friend does not have to be hard. It just has to take a little bit of a commitment. And my call to everybody is, I never want to see something like this happen again. I don't want my daughter to be on the news 10 years after I die. I don't want that. It scares the bejesus out of me. I can't even explain how frightening that concept is for me. But I also know, and that frightens me more, is how real it is. Because at this point in time in our lives, no one's a really good friend for Chloe. Nobody takes her out. Nobody is there to keep an eye on Chloe. Everyone expects that that's my job. And if you're not going to be keeping an eye on somebody when the carer's alive, it's not going to miraculously turn into a pattern that you do once the carer's dead. You may do it for a little while, but it will be stopped doing, and then they become vulnerable, as Anne-Marie did. So I implore you, I beg of you, go out there, every person, and become a good friend. It doesn't take much. And in actual fact, you get back way more than you ever give, you get back. Doing something little for somebody else who's vulnerable is the best thing anyone can do for anybody, and it's the best way to be a friend. So go out there, let Anne-Marie's legacy live forever, and let no one else ever have this happen again. And let's all become good friends with each other.